My name is Shyamal Sengupta. This is my story for Colourful Heritage. I was born in basically Assam, but my birth, everything says I was born in Chittagong. At that time, in the place I'm talking about, they didn't keep a record of it. So I still assume that I'm born in Chittagong, which is in Bangladesh at the moment. My father was a police inspector. I think he was due for another promotion in railway police in Assam. We had a house in Chittagong town as well as our village homes. But I was only small. I don't know the details of it. But on petition, he opted for Chittagong. He wanted to come back to his home, and he was near retirement age. I think his retirement age at the same thing. I was only 5 years old, so we came over to Chittagong, and it was very uncertain time, as I can remember, naturally for everybody, because there was turmoil going on all over the place. I was working in Chittagong, and my brother came and asked me that there is what is called work permits are being issued by United Kingdom. So you go to the office and pick one up and apply, and if you get it, you go. I was only I was 19 or 20 years old. But I picked up an application form, submitted it, I got it's called work voucher at that time, but I could speak fluent English. So I came over through India. I went to Calcutta to Bombay, came by boat. Its name of it was Vietnam, Mrs. Maritime. So it took 14 days, and I came through Suez and got off at Marseille in France, and then got onto a train, came to Victoria. There was a group of people friends came before me, and I asked them to come and pick me up. I think I was 18 years old in a foreign country. However, the train was late by 8 hours. So when I got off at Victoria, there was nobody. But fortunately, there was my brother informed somebody else who was from Sylhet. I didn't know him. They were more or less they were working here in factories or something. One of these gentlemen stayed for me for 8 hours in Victoria Station waiting for me. When I came, he picked me up, took me to there. I didn't know him, took me to London Bridge. There I spent 3 days with them. It was very cold. And the heat, it was paraffin heaters, and we just slept in the lounge. The other people I knew, so we all got together, hired a house, number 2 Calabria Road or something, I can't remember. There was only £5 in my pocket, and there was £100 somewhere. Somebody sent it, and my brother sent it to somebody which I didn't know. I didn't have that time, so I had to get a job. So I went to, it used to be J Alliance. There used to be chain of restaurants all over UK, and so I was told, go and have a waiter's job. In London Bridge, they had a restaurant, and I started as a kitchen porter. And I worked 3 days there. I had a diploma in civil engineering. It's not a degree course, so diploma in civil engineering varies in standards. Though in Dhaka, they used an American system, but there was no equivalent in South London, Brixton School of Building. So I was given a job for laboratory technicians, which is more or less cleaning up laboratories after the students have done their job. So that was in structural lab. So it was slightly in my line, but the machines they have, I've never seen it, because these are much advanced machines than what I saw in Dhaka. Dhaka was in East Pakistan at that time. So I worked there, but my aim was to get more qualification. These are only a means of getting it. So I was trying to do, so first thing I did to do is to get a course. Instead of, I tried to find out, but there was no equivalent. So I said, instead of going higher and failing, I would rather go a bit lower and pass. So I did the final year of Ordinary National Certificate, which really is much lower. I knew a lot more than that. So most of the subjects in exam I got 99. And as a result, I got a award from British Construction Steelwork Association, a gold watch. 69, I think, 69, yeah. That's when I came to Glasgow. And I got a job in the British Rail Engineering Department in Buchanan House in Glasgow. I came over. In the meantime, I passed my driving test. I had a Morris Minor, and I drove from London in that tiny car, Morris Minor. Motorways were not built at that time. I came by A1 to Glasgow. So I worked in British Rail, more or less in civil engineering side. And that various time I became resident engineer. So I moved up as well, I remember, because I was nearly chartered at those. While I'm doing that, I had to decide. Remember, in going to India, Bangladesh, anything at that time was not easy. It was very expensive. So you can only go 1 in 5 years. I arrived in India. There was only 1 month, for 1 month. Remember, if I don't get married there, I come back and there'll be another 5 years I go back. So there, things will change. However, I went there to India in 1971, 69, yeah, 69. And I was getting worried and I told my mother, so what are you doing? I came here to get married. And they said, my father in the meantime, he was not sitting down, he was doing things. He advertised in the newspaper for a suitable girl. And that blah, 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 we are from Chittagong and the caste and all sorts of things there. But nobody tells her, but she was just sitting and her father was communicating with my father against that advertisement. And that was, as a matter of fact, that's Lucknow. This is the Bengali newspaper. What happened is that it's a fate possibly, must be. This newspaper was you don't get newspapers in Lucknow, Bengali newspapers, but this was a Bengali shop who possibly had Bengali newspapers, and they used it as a wrapping paper. And her brother went there and saw this Bengali. He loved Bengali in Lucknow, and so he picked it up. And this is the page which gives you bride and looking for bride and groom page, list of the things. and her brother picked it up and took it home. They didn't know about advertisement. Her father knew, but they didn't know. I married and brought her wife. There was no gap at all. I just brought her with me to Scotland. And then remember, she needed something to do. I needed money as well, remember. And so she, 3 months, I think we stayed 2 or 3 months, and then she was looking for a job to do. And job means either sewing and then she got a job somewhere in electronic factory somewhere. But she was not even, she didn't have proper dress either. So it was, and my wife never expresses anything, she just does it. There were a lot of people, local, who helped me, who became really part of the family. A senior engineer, he protected me. And there were times when I was being discriminated against, he fought for me. And not only that, there was amazing, and there are people who wanted me to have promotion, and there was the assistant principal engineer who came along before the interview, gave me the hints of the questions that are going to be asked because he wanted me, he thought that I deserved the promotion. And because other people will discriminate, so he was just balancing it a bit, saying that, Shyamal, look up these things. So and some of them still became more or less cousins, really. My children calling us Makai Dadu, and I carried his coffin for his funeral. Also, I was given that honor. When I came here, came to Eastern Fisher, there was not many Asian here at that time. And the Eastern Fisher Council or the local authority bodies didn't have much idea of the way of living, expectation of the people, new people are coming in. We need to teach the council staff about the religions or religious practices of people that are coming over here, Islam, Sikh, Hindus, and all sorts of things, which not many people had any idea. Or even if they have idea, we got the impression they didn't. And then I think by that time I was getting interested as well. There was Faith Forum. And Faith Forum was being organized as a countrywide as well. So later on I became chairperson of the Faith Forum at that time. I was awarded MBE in 2017, which I went to Buckingham Palace, received it from the young prince. Yes, along with my wife. My wife got it 2 years before that for our activity, which is completely different. But I got it afterwards for my work in Faith Forum. When I came here and when I got my British citizenship, I always considered that I'm British. I have a very, it's possible some people has a very very mind, very ABCD mind in there. And I always say, am I going to go back to India ever? So then I ask me, my son going to back to India? No. My granddaughter is going to look at history. They're not going, nobody's going to go back to India. Any movement of people enriches a culture. You bring in different things, and I'm sure all the different cultures that are coming in enriched the existing culture which was here. And this is not in particular just now. I mean, the people always moved, and people came in before. We were not the first one. So it has enriched. It's very, as to the Asian community, it's a bit it's not fixed yet. There are a lot of things going on. The world is changing in itself. But I think it has enriched everything really. I've been lucky, or possibly that's the norm. I had a very good reception in this country, and I feel quite at home here.